Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. We are heading to the SEC as the Missouri Tigers, coming off a very impressive loss to the Georgia Bulldogs, go on the road to the Florida Gators. This Gators team still trying to figure out their identity. They look good against Eastern Washington. I watched that game on Sunday afternoon. Not going to read too much into it, but I think the biggest thing you can note is how confident Anthony Richardson looked. This is something we've talked about all year. Anthony Richardson just needs to continue to build that experience and build that confidence because we know what his capability is from a talent standpoint. He's a Heisman Trophy caliber player. He just needs to continue to get that confidence, continue to get those game reps. And at Eastern Washington, yes, Eastern Washington's an FCS team. They were just outmatched physically. But this Florida offense pretty much did whatever they wanted. I mean, you saw them come right out, first play from the line of scrimmage on offense, play action, hit Justin Shorter for a 75-yard touchdown. Anthony Richardson threw an absolute dime, hit Justin Shorter in stride. And that's kind of what you're looking for if you're a Florida Gator fan. I mean, Justin Shorter is a guy that former five-star transfer from Penn State, that another guy similar to Anthony Richardson that has had all the talent in the world. He just has been behind in the depth chart a little bit with this Gators team, but if he can get going and you can unlock Justin Shorter as one of the best SEC wide receivers in the conference, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. This Florida Gators team is really dangerous. Before we get into it, though, just want to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel. Again, we're almost at 2,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. I think a year ago we were at 40. So that is thanks to you guys, and the support really does mean a lot. So if you guys do enjoy the content, you do like talking college football, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys a lot. And part of my favorite thing about doing these videos is learning about your teams in the comment section. You guys let me know what guys are injured, what guys have been looking good in spring camp. We really do appreciate all that support. So we just want to say thank you, and let's start talking some football. I want to start with the Florida Gators just because they're the more talented team, and if the Florida Gators play A-plus football, they will win this game, and they will win this game handily. Now the question is, do we see the A-plus Anthony Richardson? Do we see the A-plus caliber defense that Florida has? I mean, the last couple of years, the talent hasn't been the lack of for this Florida Gators defense. I think depth has been a concern, but I also just think lack of tackling, lack of physicality under Ty Grantham and Dan Mullen has been a problem. You're seeing that start to change for this Florida Gators defense, but I'm excited to see how they continue to develop. But let's start on the offense side of the ball with Anthony Richardson. Again, we know that he looked great against Eastern Washington. It's been kind of a tale of two stories. 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, only completing 55% of his passes. Had a tough couple games against USF, Kentucky, Tennessee. Tennessee, I thought he actually played really well, which was impressive. Going on the road to Knoxville, I thought that offense was able to move the football really well. And then I think this Missouri team, yes, they are actually pretty solid on defense. But again, I really do think the Florida Gators, if they put it together, are going to be a dangerous team. And something that's really surprised me about this Gators team is we were kind of asking, who is Anthony Richardson going to throw it to? Last couple of years, they've had some phenomenal pass catchers, making guys like Kyle Trask look really good. Kyle Pitts, Trevon Grimes, Van Jefferson. The list kind of goes on and on. Kadarius Toney, probably shouldn't have forgot about him. This year, you were like, where's the pass catching production going to happen? I was kind of banging the table for Justin Shorter. He has kind of emerged, but again, a lot of guys have been carrying the weight. Ricky Pearsall, the transfer from Arizona State, looked really good. Xavier Henderson, I think, has looked really good kind of in those short and intermediate routes. Keon Zipper, the tight end, he's kind of a dog after the catch. That play against Tennessee was insane. I really like the talent that Florida has, but, I mean, you've seen what they want to do. They bring in 2 really big transfers on the offensive line. They're trying to run the football. You have Anthony Richardson, who is one of the best running quarterbacks in the whole entire country. He's averaged 5.7 yards per carry. Naquan Wright, Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne. Again, I'm still waiting on Lorenzo Lingard. I'm not really sure why he's not getting used. We saw him a little in kind of garbage time against Eastern Washington. He's averaged 9 yards per carry. The dude is super talented. Again, I'm sure Gator fans know he's a former 5-star from Miami. He looks great. I just don't really know why he's not being used. I don't know if he's been fumbling the football in practice. So if you guys have any information on that, let me know in the comment section. So I've been waiting on Lorenzo Lingard. But again, I'm starting to like how complete this offense is starting to look. And Florida Gators, they win this game and they cover 11 points if that A-plus Florida Gators offense shows up. On the defense side of the ball, I really do think it's important to get Trey Dean back. having a guy at that safety spot who could come up and thump guys in the run game, be really good in coverage. I've been saying this a lot. I think this is one of the best safety duos in the country with Rashad Torrance and Trey Dean. Trey Dean didn't play against Eastern Washington. I would be surprised if you don't see him against Missouri homecoming game, probably just giving him one extra week against Eastern Washington, a game that you knew you'd win comfortably. I think that's really important. Ventrell Miller coming back from injury, he looks really good. And again, the two guys that I think, yes, those safeties, you know what you have with those. Rashad Torrance, Trey Dean, two very, very good football players. I think the two biggest stories for this Florida Gators team is, one, Ventrell Miller. Can you have that veteran middle linebacker who's going sideline to sideline, being a tackling machine? He looked the part against Eastern Washington. I'm very happy to see him back healthy. It's been a tough couple years from him in the injury department. And then Brenton Cox Jr., a guy that 2 years ago I had him a top 5 edge prospect for the NFL draft, and then just hasn't really put it together. He's a guy that I'm really excited about. And I think he's looked really good, kind of bending around the edge. He's one of the best technicians when it comes to getting after the passer. And if you can get Missouri in those 3rd and longs, they haven't run the football that well, turn Brenton Cox loose because he's an absolute dog. Gervin Dexter's another guy that I don't think he's another guy that I'm just waiting on. He's obviously a former 5-star. I don't think he's dominated in this 3rd year that we really thought he would dominate. Again, I still think he's a day 2 prospect in the NFL draft with potential upside to be a day 1 pick. That's how dominant and good this guy is flash-wise. I mean, you see him flash some freaky athleticism off the line of scrimmage, some freaky power. You just don't really see it consistently. If we can get Gervin Dexter going again, some of the talent that Florida has on the defense side of the ball isn't a problem. I think the depth might be a little bit of a problem, but the talent standpoint, they have multiple guys who I really like from an NFL draft standpoint, from an all-SEC standpoint. I'm just waiting for that defense to come together. Let's talk a little bit about Missouri. I liked what I saw from Missouri against Georgia, and quite frankly, I've liked what I saw from Missouri for most of the year. I mean, they're 2-3 with obviously a tough loss to Georgia, tough loss to Auburn. They just straight up should have won that game against Auburn on the road. Tough loss against Kansas State, who seems to be a team that is really, really good. They just blew out Oklahoma. They just beat some Texas Tech. This is a Kansas State team that is very good. What Missouri needs to do specifically on the defensive side of the ball to keep this close against the Florida Gators is continue to get some of those tackles for loss. You pull up the stat sheet. This is something that the Missouri Tigers are very, very good at. I mean, Tyron Hopper, a guy who transferred from Florida, has been a tackle for loss machine. He's got 32 tackles on the year. 7.5 of those have been for a loss. Jalen Carroll's 3.5 tackles for a loss. Martez Manuel, 5.5 tackles for a loss. And then you can even get to guys like Isaiah McGuire, 3.5 tackles for a loss. Trev Coat, 2 tackles for a loss. They have a guys who get behind the line of scrimmage, get negative plays. And if you look about how you beat this Florida offense, it's getting them off schedule. Anthony Richardson and their conversion rate is a hell of a lot higher when they're 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, when they can use Anthony Richardson as a running back, use his legs. When you get him to 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, you get him off schedule. Anthony Richardson needs to stay from the pocket, go through his progressions, and find an open receiver. That's when they struggle a little bit. So the key for Missouri on that defense side of the ball is get those negative plays, get Florida off schedule, and really then get after Anthony Richardson in those 3rd and long scenarios. That's when you see the turnovers. That's when you see kind of the boneheaded plays, if you will, from Anthony Richardson. Missouri can do that. I really do like their chances to at least cover the spread, but definitely come out of this with a win. Again, it's homecoming game for the Gators. It's going to be loud in the swamp. It's one of the best environments in all of college football. If they want to get this win on the road, they need to get some negative plays. And on the offensive side of the ball, there's not many guys on this Missouri Tigers team right now that scare you. I think Dominic Lovett's kind of the only guy with Luther Burden battling injury, not really playing that much. I mean, Brady Cook's solid, but he needs help. They need to run the football well. They haven't run the football particularly good with Nathaniel Pete. He's only averaging 4.5 yards per carry. It's been solid, but Brady Cook's, again, he's a young quarterback that hasn't played much. If you want this Missouri team to be able to move the ball, they need some playmakers on the outside. Dominic Lovett's one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. Luther Burden has just been, if I had to guess, the expectations we set for a true freshman like Luther Burden, as good as he was in high school, it's really hard to come in as an 18-year-old and dominate. And we're seeing him struggle a little bit. I think the Missouri fans were very, very excited for him to kind of be the guy. he will be the guy. I'm just not sure if it's this year, but I think Luther Burden being healthy, Dominic Lovitz also seemingly nursing an ankle injury. Those guys need to be healthy, and they need to be explosive playmakers if they want to beat this Florida Gators team. And so those are kind of the keys to the game. Getting to the pick, Gators are sitting at 11-point favorites. The over-under is 54 and a half, excuse me. I'm probably staying away from the total here just because I'm not really sure how Missouri is going to be able to move the ball. I'm not really sure how not really sure what Anthony Richardson you're going to get. If I had a lean in this game, I would take Florida to cover the 11 points just because if they play good football, the Florida Gators will cover 11 points. They will win handily. I kind of lean towards that. But again, this Florida Gators team is still kind of working on their consistency. They're working on playing B+, A- football every week. We haven't seen that yet. They certainly didn't do that against USF. They certainly didn't do that against Kentucky. They did it against Utah. Like this, the ceiling for this Florida Gators team is top 10 team in the country. The floor is also really, really low, and they haven't really figured out how to win those ugly games yet. I'm probably riding with the Florida Gators here, but I'm not feeling great about it. I won't feel great about taking Florida, especially to cover any spreads, until you see a little bit more consistency from the Gators. But from a talent standpoint, from a ceiling standpoint, the Gators have the more talent. They have the higher ceiling. So I will be riding with the Gators if I had to make a pick to cover that 11 points, not touching the total. That'll do it from the boys. Again, appreciate you guys and all the support you guys have shown. So if you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate y'all, and we will talk to you guys later. Peace.